It's time to get sexy, so watch Secular Sexuality Live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.
It is the new year, folks. Happy 2022. Welcome back. We are fresh. We are ready. We are here. We are your nonprofits, a product of the atheist community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the separation of religion and government and promoting positive atheism. I am so glad we are freaking done with 2021. I will say that F word and not the other one because we are just opening the show. So, welcome, my host joining me on this very special New Year episode, Mateo Teo El Ateo. I didn't say that right. Mateo, hi.
Hello, how are you? I'm so happy to be here. Oh yeah, non-profit, new year, finally starting. So yeah, I'm extremely happy to be here, and thank you for that nice introduction. You can just say
Of
Teo El
course.
Ateo. You know it rhymes.
Okay.
It's kind of the
It
idea.
does, but I can't roll my tongue to make all that fit. It doesn't work for me. I'm sorry, honey. But
Let's
I
blame the
like the new
Spanish.
dance animation. That's cute. That's cute. I like it. Secular Rarity, you are back with us as well. How are you?
I am fantastic. Apparently, just yet I have not overstayed my welcome, which is great. I'm always excited to come back and hang out and yell about stuff. And we have an awesome panel. I'm really excited to be with the three of y'all. So this is going to be lots of fun,
Oh
and
yeah.
it'll be a good year. I mean, I'm not a prophet or anything, but I think so. I think that's what I'll say. So.
You know what?
I miss you, secular.
That is the only prophecy I will actually believe. But of course, yes, you are right, Secular Rarity. This panel is a great one because we have a special guest with us today to kick off our new year, Josh Entner.
Entner.
Hello.
Close enough. Hey,
Oh,
hello. Thanks for finally having me on here. Don't worry about it. I've been behind the scenes forever, like working on the Facebook mod groups and all fan groups and stuff like that. And I've been a fan of every single one of the people here is great. Even the tune is good by me, despite what people may have heard. I
mhm.
love this show. I think the past year you guys have turned what was one of the lesser known shows on the ACA into one of the better shows that has ever been on here. Like I love this. I really love the commentary on this show, so I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you. As Johnny P. Angel would say, this is the flagship show of the ACA. True
For a
to form,
reason.
through and through. And, I apologize because I've already messed up all three of your names because, a little bit too much booze. So there you go.
I can relate.
But, just introduce you a little bit because you have your own podcast as well, Josh, called the Bloody Good Film Podcast. Give us a little info on that.
Well, it's mostly like an action horror movie podcast. It doesn't have as much of a skeptic slants on it, but I have gotten Laura McGee and Richard Gilliver on there to
Very
have
nice.
some skeptic episodes. Like we had one where we broke down Exorcism of Emily Rose, where we had Richard on there, supposedly based on a true story, not very truthful at all. Tries to play the line between real and fiction, and it's pretty much all fiction. Even they even try to make the Catholic priest seem like a better guy. And we had Laura McGee on for a Flying Saucer episode based on Fire in the Sky. I'm trying to sneak some skepticism into a community that isn't very skeptic because I'm friends with a lot of people in the horror community. Good, nice people, horrible epistemology.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, appreciate you borrowing our host to be on your podcast. So of course we do the due diligence of welcoming you here with us on our new year episode. So welcome. Let's go ahead and jump right into this, shall we? So this show, of course, all of our articles that we are mentioning today are linked down below, and we have since the last month, I would say, we have started sending out our articles or topics ahead of schedule so that all of you can all dive right on in, see what we're going to be discussed, and, just participate in the conversation in the live chat, or just leave us a comment if you're not catching us live. Just so you keep that in mind. But if you choose to want to pause this show and kind of dive on into the information down in the description, by all means, do so. Don't take all of our words for what we are discussing today. Do the research yourself. All right. So, and jumping off in segment 1, we are going to take a trip over to Lakewood Church. And apparently they have their own bank located behind the men's bathroom stall number 2 inside the wall. So if you need some cash, bring your own chisel. Yeah, that's right. BYOC. Bring your own chisel. Segment 2, we are going to go and journey to Utah with the LDS Church and how they're toxifying what it means to care for residences, as we touch on how extremely difficult it has become for those seeking welfare. In segment 3, a man is murdered in Pakistan for allegedly performing the ultimate sin, blasphemy. And in our final segment, which is a step in the right direction, I try to pull a Cynthia. I'm sorry. I can't. She's the GOAT. I can't do anything. She has it all. Anyway, American pastors are saying, hell no, I won't preach until you give me more monies. But I guess they, could go ahead and hit up Joel Osteen's church for a little bit of that cash toilet. But anyway, diving on into segment 1, Sir Secular Rarity, why don't you welcome us, introduce us to this?
I think kind of the way you laid it out is pretty good. There's for everybody out there that's a fan of a good mystery story, I mean, this has it all. So it appears that there's a fella out there. He's a plumber, and he was hanging out one day, and he decided to call this Texas radio call-in show. And he gets on there and he starts talking about this interesting experience that he had, and it goes something along the lines like this, where basically he was called with the rest of his team to go take a look at this toilet at this church. Y'all know Joel Osteen, right? He's that guy, and he has like the planes for Jesus and the big church and the nice fancy suits, all for God, not for any other reason. Right.
The planes get you closer to God, so of course.
Yes, that's biblical. But he calls this plumber because he's having a little bit of a problem with his toilet, it seems. And the plumber and his crew get there, and they notice for some reason there's a little bit of a loose tile, it looks like, behind one of these. So, being a good plumber, he goes to investigate. Well, as he does that, apparently just large amounts of cash and checks fall out from this I don't want to say hidey hole, because that sounds like a little bit like I'm poisoning the well, but what's another good term for that? Stash spot, I think, is a better one. But so all this money falls out, and the old Joel there, he's just beside himself. I mean, he has no idea where it could have possibly come from, and he's so super confused, and of course he calls the police, because that's the right thing to do. Funny enough, apparently a few years ago, looks like about 2014, there was a case opened up in the area, and it had something to do with somebody potentially stealing, like, what was it, 400K, 500K, 600K? I mean, somebody broke into this church's safe and just stole a lot of money. And they don't know who did it. They don't know what happened to it, So yeah, fast forward a few years, and there's piles of cash coming out of the wall. Now, we have not closed this case, people. We don't know at the time of this recording, but by the time this show airs, who knows where this will be. But I think our boy Joel here will be very transparent. I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, he will absolutely come out and make sure that every single penny is accounted for. I mean, right? Don't you guys think that?
Yeah, totally do. Totally do.
He's been an
Mateo.
upstanding
Oh,
citizen
Josh.
the entire time I've known about him. Just nothing
Right.
like letting people in the doors that are in Harvey or thought about it probably. And then the 4 million from PPE. Yeah. He's just upstanding, fantastic citizen.
Fantastic. Yes.
Sarcasm is
Mateo,
not my thing,
what do you
guys.
say on
Yeah. Okay, as Secular mentioned, of course, we cannot say that this guy is guilty. We have no evidence. Am I saying, or will I say that I consider televangelist people extremely dishonest who promise you something in exchange of your 10% in order to receive a reward that you won't see until you die, and I don't consider that something honest? I can say that. Will I say that this guy actually hid the money? Well, let me summarize this with some nice phrase that I read somewhere. I have no evidence, but I don't have any doubts either. So yeah, I don't have evidence. We have no evidence. But come on, guys. I mean, it's so obvious. I'm not good at sarcasm, but come on. The money disappears. He calls the police, and then suddenly it's all behind the bathroom. No, come on. It's too obvious. It's way too obvious. And
yeah, I mean, that is fair. So let's look at this critically, because obviously Joel Osteen, brilliant smile, brilliant hair, brilliant charisma. I mean, have you seen his preaching? Spot on. I'm surprised I'm not a Christian again. But, he has this mega church. He's been frequently criticized for the mass amounts of wealth he has and the fancy car and the big home. I mean, the guy makes his money off of prosperity theology, right? So of course there's some, hesitancy about how, fruitful of his clarity and willingness to be honest about, what's behind that stall or the stash of cash and checks. Obviously, maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was his clerical staff. Maybe it was someone plotting against him for such and such, whatever. Who knows?
My one issue with it is I can say I can't link the two cases definitively, but I can't say Walter White wasn't hiding money in the wall because he had a successful car wash. There's definitely something suspicious going on there. It's just the way the article was linking the two cases just because of similar amounts of money. He has millions and millions of dollars. This is like a drop in the bucket for him. There's something suspicious going on there. I don't want to say that I can link the cases. I do not think it's on the up and up. But I don't like the way a lot of people on the internet will like try to play detective just because they're seeing patterns or similarities there. So there's something weird going on there for sure. But to say that the two things are linked is a little too far for me from one article and without us having feet on the ground investigating this thing.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really comes up in a moment like this, because again, we can all have our personal thoughts and feels on it, but as good skeptics, what we should do is we should wait until there's evidence, and that's going to take time for investigation. It's going to take time to go through the courts and stuff, but I think this is one of those moments where we, as those that really care about separation of church and state, those of us out there that really want everybody to be playing on the same field, this is where we should say, look, it's not fair that churches are allowed to just find $500 worth of cash in a wall and really not have to say much about it. Like the article ends where basically the police of the area says, we were called about this large sum of money and we showed up. They showed us a pile of cash and we left it with them because it was found on their property. And like, yes, I mean, yeah, it is their money. But at the same time, we wouldn't allow just any nonprofit organization to just dig a hole in their building, find $500,000 worth of cash and really not report it, right?
Well, most churches aren't having big stacks of cash in the back, and most churches are not on Joel Osteen's level. So like him having a few $100,000, $600,000 worth of cash in his walls is suspicious, but you can't automatically account for every little dollar that he's had, especially since I don't think the church has to turn over their cash records. So it could have been just like, oh, we remodeled the bathroom and we accidentally stuck some cash behind the toilet. It happens. Somebody thought it was insulation or something. But I don't understand what they're going to come up with it. It's very suspicious, but I don't understand. I don't know what the police or anybody in the law could do about this, because there's just too many variables that we don't have track of there.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at. We need to make sure that there are transparency laws for these organizations, just the same as there are for others. Because otherwise, yeah, stuff like this could keep happening and we don't have any recourse.
Well, we run into those issues. Oh, please go ahead, Mateo.
No, go, Jen. I was just going to say that Josh always proves that I'm wrong, so go ahead. I will have more time later, so don't worry.
Yes,
I'll come in after Mateo and correct him.
Yes, prove it to him later on in the show. But I was going to say, just stemming off of what you said, secular rarity, just in the fact that it does play into a conversation, a more deeper conversation that needs to keep having about tax exemption rights for churches, So you just said it yourself. They're not obligated to relinquish, their records of, cash flow, cash in, cash out, whatever. There's always a fucking church. I made sure we were past the time. That's why I hesitated. There's always a fucking church building fund. So, that continuously goes on and on until they want to build up their wealth within that church. Who knows where those funds go and whose pockets? And we should be good skeptics and, speculate whom may have stashed that into the walls. Maybe it's a setup on the plumber side. Who knows? I'm just being skeptical, I'm just asking questions. I'm asking questions. That's all.
It definitely should be about the taxation issue, though, because this is the only way that these big evangelical super churches are going to be keep it getting away with weird money defrauding. And like the $4 million that they mentioned in the article that he took from PPE is because of they're taking away from the taxes, but they're not even putting into them. There's so much shady shit going around with this and with these churches, and they need to be put in check. They need to be watched by the government, I think, especially since these kinds of people go into politics all the time. They're preaching politics to the church. So if they're going to be doing that, we got to be looking into taxation.
Yep.
Definitely looking into taxation.
I was just going to go with the same thing. I mean, whenever you look at the richest guys in the country, Joel Osteen is always on top. Joel Osteen, Kenneth Copeland, Paula White, those guys, those names are always repeated over and over. And why are they so insanely rich? Because they don't pay taxes, because they are exempted of taxation. And
that's only a part of it, though, because there's a lot of churches that aren't making that kind of money.
Oh, yeah,
right.
I'm sure we're going to talk about that later on, but I'm talking about the huge mega church from these televangelists who become so insanely rich because they don't get taxed and they sell people this idea that, hey, you have to give me your money to get salvation. And one of the many harms of religion, right?
Well, that's just it. A lot of this prosperity theology comes from these televangelists or radio podcast evangelists that either write books or sell whatever memorabilia, or you have to subscribe to whatever they have in order to receive the salvation that they have to preach. And then obviously, and none of us believe and fall for that mess, but it's not surprising that each one of these particular people, like Kenneth Copeland's, like your that one guy that doesn't want to get COVID vaccine, which is pretty much all of them.
You gotta narrow that down a lot.
Pick one. Yeah, pick one of your choosing, right? So it's obviously there is some concern in which, like, where did these funds go? Just dialing back to the 2014 case that you presented, Secular Rarity, that the whole mystery behind those missing, I think it was about $600,000. And then I don't know if they've truly allocated the actual sum of these finding of funds, but in that particular case, ongoing investigation, like you said, where exactly were those funds drawn? And if they're checks, then we can look at those names of those checks. But again, they don't release the books because they're not obligated to. Therefore, because tax exemption.
Right.
So that definitely needs to be tackled.
Yeah, and we just need to it it doesn't matter who it is. At the end of the day, we all need another pair of eyes coming over, looking back on what we did and checking up. Everybody needs that. We all do because A, we all make mistakes. That's okay. That's something that happens. But B, also, even the best seeming people can have bad intentions, right? And if we're given ultimate power, we seem to abuse that. So let's just all have safeguards in place, right?
Well, that's probably the reason why he's able to get away from it is there is this image that the church is where the morality comes from.
Yep.
Like I know people at my work that actually have one of Joel Osteen's books, and they think that they're the most moral people on earth. The people that read this, they think he's a fantastic person because he's preaching the gospel. So just having like I still see atheists saying like that wasn't very Christian. Like even in our vernacular, sometimes it gets changed. It gets used as a word for good instead of a word for like a belief, because it's no more than just the stack of their beliefs. It's not good or bad sometimes, because there is occasionally like there's probably like a couple good things in the book maybe, but it doesn't make it a good moral book.
No, I agree with that. And I wonder, if this is even enough, if it's enough to draw or garner more attention to, really have it, if we truly want to be a country, and speaking of America, for instance, if you truly want to be in a country in America that we abide by the separation of religion and state government, then why not have the conversation and tackle these types of tax exemption rights for these churches? And it's not just mega churches, it's all churches. And, they have their means and ways of garnering more funds for themselves, but their surrounding communities lack. The surrounding communities, they are in this mindset, this, how do you say, oh, what's it called? Cognitive dissonance. There we go. They're in this cognitive dissonance of just, okay, I just have to give. My paycheck, the first thing I give is my money to the church. I got to tithe. I got to put in my 10%. But that 10% or that small paycheck of cash does not in the end, help at all. It just feeds the mouths of the headers over that particular church. That's all it
It would be
does.
different if we could see where the money was going when they're tithing that 10%.
Exactly.
But
Yep.
they can act like it's charitable all they want. But we know that a good chunk of it, well, we don't know because we can't see their books, but we can assume a good chunk of it isn't going into like helping the homeless, or at least it isn't helping them without some kind of preaching involved. We don't know how much of that is happening. There needs to be a conversation about it, and it's gonna take a lot of like voting for people that care about that for it to change, because I don't see it happening anytime soon.
And I'm sure we have all seen the calculation of how much governments could do if they actually tax the churches, because the huge amounts of money that are being they get lost, because that is money that comes out of the pockets of people and it doesn't go to the government. It just goes straight to one rich guy's pocket, and that's it. It's lost money. I mean, for the country at least. And I'm not going to say just your country, because down here several countries are similar. So we are all together in this terrible, terrible situation.
I mean, churches aren't just shady in America. News to
It's
me.
a worldwide thing.
Oh my
You read
god.
it?
Or god.
Any god. Oh dear. Okay. Well, any final
What
words on
Cthulhu?
this? Because I do have a major takeaway, and I guess I kept bowstring this. Is that addressing the tax exemption status deal for churches, because that's just something that we often do talk about, but not enough. And especially since this kind of, story is out now, because Joel Osteen, it happens to be that type of public figure and very easily identifiable. God, that grin. It's both gorgeous and ugly at the same time. The main takeaway here, I would say, this story does spark that renewed conversation. Like I said, tax exempt churches, and if that status should be readdressed. Some members of Congress, I know my representative here in California, Jared Hoffman, He's tweeted one thing after hearing this news about Joel Osteen, quote, if they're going to politically weaponize religion by rebuking Democrats who support women's reproductive choices, then a rebuke on their tax exempt status may be in order. I agree. Definitely.
Yeah.
Any final words on that before we move forward? Because I think this heavily plays into our second segment.
I think we all, really hit great points about this. And again, just to stress something that all of us have said, we may have our feelings on this, but we should wait until the investigation is concluded, and we should go with the best evidence that's out there. But that
Indeed.
doesn't change whether or not guilt, innocence, that doesn't change that we need transparency in these types of ventures. Period. End of sentence.
No,
I
that's
thought
perfect.
there was a pretty good bow right there. You went mute.
Oh, I did go mute. I'm sorry. See, can I tax a church, please? They muted me. Mateo,
Yeah.
any addition to that?
Oh, no. I think Secular said it quite well, and we have tackled, or I have tackled everything, and I think we should join these to the next segment where we are going to keep talking about tax exemption and why it's
Yes.
important to separate state from the church,
I
especially.
agree. Yes. And before you do, let me plug in a little announcement there, and then I'll have you kick us off with that, Mateo. Because of all of our dedicated viewership, all of our positive atheist community that have been watching us, liking, showing up when we go live, tuning into our voice only podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you for putting us over that 10K sub marker. I think last I checked, we're at 10.3, could be going up since we recorded this, but it's still a great milestone for us because we can fundraise and support the mission of the atheist community in Austin. So thank you, subscribers, thank you, viewers. Continue to share our show, continue to like and comment and share your thoughts as we move forward with the new year. It is because of your dedicated viewership that we are able to continue to provide you the best content. I think so. Because, flagship show. That's what we do. That's what we do here. Yeah. But of course, if you are unable to catch us live, no worries. Check out the Atheist Experience Network, a YouTube channel where you can find all of the atheist community of Austin shows, all in podcast form. Beautiful. Subscribe at tanny.c/AEN podcasts to listen to the episodes of the nonprofits, AXP or Atheist Experience, SexX or Secular Sexuality, and all of our other ACA shows so you don't miss a single episode. Don't you dare miss a single episode. I will come at you to watch our shows. I'll come for you because it's good stuff. Okay, Mateo, I've done enough ranting. Please lead us into the second segment.
Yeah, second segment. Thank you, the Salt Lake Tribune, for this. It's called How Has come on, Jenna, you're making me make mistakes too.
I'm sorry.
How has Utah saved 75 million on welfare by providing next to none and taking credit for LDS welfare instead? So obviously, the first thing I had to do was to Google what LDS means, and apparently this is called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if you if you Google the name, you will find that their objective, or the objective of their welfare program, is to care for those in need while teaching principles that promote self-reliance and self-respect. And as soon as I started reading this article, the first thing that makes me want to throw up was the first description. The state makes aid so hard to get that some get baptized into the predominant faith only to obtain help, which I find extremely disgusting, guys. Awful. This is just like similar to when Christians go to Africa and they bring Bibles and they force people to listen to a whole hour or 2 hours of their teachings in order to give them a sandwich. And I mean, this is totally related to what happened that we were talking about, tax exemption. Do I even have to mention Mother Teresa and how her took a lot of money, made so much money that if she had taken the money from the Vatican Bank, they could have gone into bankruptcy. and how she forced baptism into dying people. So yeah, even worse, this LDS thing is part of the Mormon religion, one of the worst religions out there. I mean, come on, they had to invent the Scientology only to have something worse than Mormonism. And guys, this is so terrible that people, they get denied the help from the government because they are not poor enough, according to the government. So I'm going to quote here. I'm going to quote from the article. Although maintaining a safety net for the poor is the government's job, welfare in Utah has become so entangled with the state's dominant religion that the agency in charge of public assistance here counts as a percentage of the welfare provided by the LDS Church toward the state's own welfare spending. This means poor people have to go with the church, and even in the church, there is a bishop who is going to approve their, for example, if they want to buy food, the bishop has to decide what they can or cannot buy. And different from the government, the religion can just discriminate based on religion, meaning they are going to force you into their own religion if you want their help. And this makes me sick, guys. I don't know about you, but for me, this is disgusting. Totally disgusting.
Yeah, it's like you're putting these unfortunate residences that live in their communities. You are beholden to be converted into the church in order to receive assistance. I think there was a reference in here from the article in which in 2019, the state of Utah rejected nearly 90% of applications for welfare assistance. And too many caseworkers advised those individuals that were denied to turn to the Christ of Jesus Christ to turn to the church, the Christ of the Christ, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for help. So it's almost like I'll leave it there. I want to hear everyone else's thoughts. Josh, you had some great information in regarding the situation of the welfare state of Utah and the entanglement with the LDS Church.
Well, they mentioned in the article that a lot of the people in charge of the welfare are like the senators or whatever for that state, the people in charge for that state. So, and they all happen to be majority Mormons or Latter-day Saints, however you want to go for it. So there's a big conflict of interest right there. And they've even talked about how they're able to put the funds for welfare into like social projects. And they're, instead of giving it to the people, they're doing like classes about stopping premarital sex and stuff like that, which they've already proven doesn't do as much as giving the money directly to the people. So they're having these vanity projects so they can keep the money out of people's hands who might use it for Satanism and groceries, and going right into forcing them into the church into like a fake it till you make it kind of Mormonism. Because they don't care whether you believe it. They care whether or not you look like you believe it, and then you instill that upon your family.
They want those church numbers up. That always looks good as well. And this is just yet again another example of how those of us that are not religious in this country, we need to continue our activity. We need to stay motivated. We have to make these types of options available for people. We do. We can't just sit back and just say, well, the Baptists in my area aren't that bad. If they want to give out some boxes of food, no, fuck that. We need to be doing this because it appears that the only way, just like Mateo said, people aren't going to be forced to sit for 2 hours to listen about some dude breaking loaves and fishes for hungry people. They don't have to sit there and listen to that just so that they can eat a damn sandwich at the end of it. Like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to preach to you about, hey, Jesus is probably not that big of a deal, or Muhammad maybe wasn't a great guy. We're not going to do that. We're just going to hand you a fucking sandwich because that's the human thing to do. So we need to make sure that our secular support system in this country is up there, and we need to talk to our politicians, plain and simple. I don't care if you're a senator and you happen to be part of this church or any church. That doesn't matter to me. But when your decisions are entirely based on and only benefit the people that agree with your church, that's a problem, because that's not what this country is about.
And it's quite hilarious because what you are mentioning is something that we have to do. And it's, guys, this is not to help atheists. This is to help everybody. This woman,
Exactly.
in the article, there is a woman who has a certain degenerative disease. So her daughter had to stop studying in order to take care for her. It's awful. And the government just said, no, you're not poor enough because she's living in certain place where they are trying to make it look more cute or whatever, cuter, whatever. And then when she went to the church forced her to get baptized under this religion. And she said, first she said, yes, of course, because I need to feed my family. But then she realized this is not the faith I believe in, and I have to be honest, so I cannot get baptized. And due to her refusal, they were denied welfare by the church just because she didn't believe in this other faith that was being imposed on her. So, guys, these cases are cruel. They go against human dignity. Yes. They go against the reason why the damn government exists. God damn it! They are supposed to be there to protect people. Governments should be here to serve people, not to impose their own freaking religion on people.
So then, what? Yeah, I loved it. Thank you. So where's the safety net after that then? Okay, so initially you apply for that application for, welfare assistance to the state. The state denies you. 9 times out of 10 that will happen according to these statistics in 2019. So then they tell you, oh, go to that church down the road, maybe they'll help. Okay, but the stipulation is in order to get assistance, you have to convert to our faith. Okay, cool. I'll pretend to do that, but then I have to, what if I, as you said, I, stopped short of being baptized. Now I can't get fed or help my children or even myself. And so where's the safety net after that? Are they told to go back to the state to reapply? What if they get denied again? Maybe that isn't even the process. They're just, okay, well, I'm off on the street because I don't want to convert to your religion.
It's not even just converting to their religion, though. You have to meet their social standards, too, for a lot of them. They talked about if you have kids out of wedlock, you're probably going to get denied. If you're gay, lesbian, or trans, you're going to get denied for this. If you look, they had even an example of a guy that looked kind of disheveled, he could get denied. So I'm like, I'm definitely not getting the money because I dress like a slob. So I'm able to put myself in the shoes because I'm just seeing nothing but horrible, arbitrary things. It shouldn't matter. And none of that stuff matters about whether or not they deserve money to be taken care of. It's a horrible, immoral act, and it seems like they're taking a whole state at hostage. Like they need it, but they have demands, and they have to be met to the T because they have enough people coming in that they can manipulate into falling for this scam that they're doing.
And if we really do care about people, if that's we say that all the time, but if that's really how we feel, then help, aid, it shouldn't be contingent on whether or not you kiss my God's ass. Amen. It shouldn't be contingent on whether or not you're part of my political system or my social club. If you're hurt and I can help, I should just help. That's it. It doesn't take it doesn't take a book. It doesn't take a lecture. That's it. It's just that simple, guys.
Yep. You'd think it would be. Obviously, it's not obviously it's not the case in this state. Mateo, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to finish with if only governments were doing their damn job. I mean, so hard. You have one job, guys. Take care of your people. One freaking job. And look at what you're doing now.
Well, the government is who we elect. And the problem is we don't have enough people with our kinds of values going into the polls and voting for people that are going to care about the issues that we care about. I know so many, and this is definitely anecdotal, I'll admit it, but I know so many people that refuse to vote in even the presidential election, and they're definitely not coming up for all the smaller elections because they don't think that their vote matters, and they forget about things like this. So if people are getting more revved up, behind politicians that care about separating church from state and like taking care of the people, then maybe we can have some change. But we need to get our people fired up about this shit.
That's right.
It definitely goes a bit more down, not even at the federal, the state, because the beautiful uniqueness of America, or the United States, I should say, is that, yeah, we have federal government, but state by states govern the way they want to fucking govern. And that's the bigger problem here, because I'd be damned if they did that shit here in California. And we're practically almost neighbors with, I know there's Nevada, I know geography. Obviously I failed that course, but we're almost neighbors. It's the next state over. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, the fact that there is so much, diverse laws state by state, where it accepts one thing and not the other, and does it this way and not the other way, that's a bigger problem there. Overall, the federal government should be taking harder stance actions, implement a overall federal legislation that will combat issues like this. But on another side of that is that government never wants to touch religion, because then they get the feedback of, oh, they're trying to go against my faith and all this other stuff. Well, your faith is causing the homelessness and detriment of people living on your streets continuously, because they've had children out of wedlock, or they look unkempt. I mean, I get it. Josh has a scraggly beard. I wouldn't give him fees for shit either if he was trying to convert to my religion. But I'm just saying that should not hand out, please. But that should not be a stipulation to take care of people.
That's right. It's not taking away from you, because we're offering a well-funded program that isn't religious and wants to actually help people when they say they're going to. That doesn't take away shit from you, because you can still preach your message and you can still tell people, come join my church, convert. I'll give you all these wonderful things, both here and after. But we should have something there for the people out there that, I mean, can you blame that woman that honestly said, I just don't agree with this? That is so ridiculous to me, to imagine somebody asking me to go completely against who I am.
She was religious too, so it's going up against her religious faith on it.
Exactly.
Like, I could probably fake being Mormon for money, because there's nothing that's going to downfall me for it. I don't feel like I'm betraying a god, but she has like betrayal of her beliefs in it, and that's a little bit harder for her to go against. This, what we're talking about, protects religious people and atheists.
Exactly.
Yeah. And remember, guys, whenever people are trying to stop you from discriminating others, that's not persecution. So there's that.
Yep. Beautiful.
Well, indeed. I think that definitely ties in well with what we earlier discussed, but I just, no, I'll leave it at that. That was great. Thank you for opening us to segment 2, Mateo. Definitely something we should follow in regards to what's going on in the state of Utah and any other state, no less, that may have this type of contingency that, I highly doubt it, because Utah is just so unique. But I hope, and any other country, no less, that may have that kind of contingency in order to supplement welfare for others. But let's go ahead and move on. Well, no, let's take a break. I need a break. Let's take a break. Folks, if you haven't been watching us every week, if you haven't been catching the live shows, by all means you should. But here's something you've missed from our shows last week.
And of course, we are joined by Mandisa Thomas.
Hello, I think this is my first time on Secular Sexuality. Maybe
we get to be
second?
your first?
I don't know. I think I'm rational. Probably not. But like some people say that I am. And it's like, I still have this weird thing that freaks me out. And I don't know. Everybody's got those.
No, I was just going to say, honestly, I'm not surprised. I know some people out there may be hearing this and think, wow, I really would have thought Satan would have done better.
We're riding off into the sunset, and I want the chat to tell us which one of us is Butch Cassidy and which one of us is the Sundance Kid.
Who's Thelma and who's Louise?
And joining me today is Dave Carpe, the bleeping DM.
Do we actually bleep on this show? I thought we said everything.
Good stuff. I like it.
That last one was my favorite.
I don't know. Truth Wanted does some good things too. I
It
don't
left
know.
me wanting though.
It left you want.
Come
At
on,
least you
guys.
gave us the truth.
The flagship program is the best. You know that.
The dad
Because
jokes,
it's the
I
only
love
one
it.
with a cartoon. Different
It's-
from other programs. Chun, chun,
Okay.
chun, chun.
Oh, Mateo. I know. I feel you, hun. All right. Thank you for that break. Let's move on. Segment 3. This is a bit heavy. This is, we don't touch a lot, I've heard. We don't touch or have a lot of discussion on the Islamic faith. So this is an excellent story regarding, the ultimate sin within Islam, which is blasphemy. So there has been a situation of a Sri Lankan man that was beaten, lynched, and body was set ablaze by his workers. He was a manager of a factory in Pakistan. I am not going to butcher his name, but the article is linked down below. I just want to pay that respect because I cannot pronounce it. But not going to pronounce that name. He was a general manager at Rajco Industries in Pakistan. He was a target of a violent mob following rumors that he allegedly tore down stickers and posters that bore the image of Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad. It started out as a few dozen workers that began protesting outside of the factory gates. And then it swelled into more protesters, which were of the local residences around that company. So this it wasn't just the workers; it was people that didn't even work there that heard of what was the rumor of this man allegedly tearing down the image of Muhammad. But they broke through the gates. They rushed the factory floor. I haven't searched for video, but according to this article, there has been gruesome video of people actually filming what happened to this man. I haven't watched it. I'm sure I'll just leave it at that. The video contains, and these have circulated all across various social media platforms, even people taking selfies of the man's corpse. It contains them of him being beaten by iron rods, being strangulated, and then once his body was, once he was dead, people set his body on fire, took selfies with his burnt corpse. It's gruesome. It's unfortunate just because of a rumor of an image being torn down out of the, Prophet Allah or Prophet Muhammad, whatever. It's not my faith, but I'm shaking for two reasons. It's horrible what happened to this man, and it's another thing to just have a rumor cause your death. And the sin of blasphemy is one of those hard-hitting sins that could get you murdered, apparently. And this man was murdered. According to the article, there were over 120 people that were arrested for the cause of this murder, but even more, hundreds of others that were actively there in participation to this crime. So
Yeah, there's so much about this in a lot of different ways. And by the time that this episode comes out, more developments will have occurred, of course, and there are many people out there, some really great secular or ex-Muslim thinkers that have already given their thoughts on this, and there's just a couple that I want to give because this has infuriated me, and I am so fucking tired. I am so fucking tired of somebody telling me that me offending their belief, me doing something that makes their fairy tale upset deserves that type of punishment, that's bullshit. That is bullshit. And the keen observer will note that even if this man had not been fucking murdered in the streets, the law exists on the books, and he would have been taken to court, and he would have been tried, and he could have been found guilty and put on death row. There currently sit in Pakistan a dozen individuals that are on death row for something ridiculous like this. We don't even know if it was a picture of the Prophet Muhammad. We don't know if it was a Quran verse. We don't know what the hell the poster was. But this man died. This man is dead because people heard a rumor and they got upset. And if you pay attention, you'll notice, the real keen observer will notice, that the state of Pakistan actually hasn't put any blasphemers to death. You know why? Because their politicians have fanned the flames for this type of mob violence. The Prime Minister Imran Khan tweeted that it was a shameful day. If you really feel ashamed, Prime Minister, release those people. Period. End of sentence. Release those people and guarantee their safety from more shit like this. I'm just pissed. I'm just angry about it. And I think we should all start the year off with this in mind and remember it the entire damn year. We need to stand up against this. This cannot go unnoticed. I'm so glad that we are talking about this because it is horrible. And it just can't be something that we sweep under the rug again. We have to fight back against this.
They're acting like rightfully so.
Go ahead, Mateo.
Sorry, Josh. Yeah, I will take it from here, Mr. Josh. Now, I totally agree with you, Secular, and you're, as I said, you are right to be angry. This case is one of the most disgusting things ever, and it takes me back to August. Do you remember when an 8-year-old boy became the youngest person charged with blasphemy in Pakistan, only because he was fucking peeing in a place and he was going to be murdered, and we have no idea what happened with that child? I mean, how the fuck is possible that nowadays this type of bullshit is happening outside in this same planet? Here we are in different parts of different continents talking at the same time, on live at the same time, talking about these issues, and on other sides of this planet, people are being murdered because of stupid beliefs from 2,000 years ago. I mean, how crazy, how awful can the human race be for this to happen? We have advanced so much in one side, and on the other side, you can be murdered only because you talk against an imaginary being. I mean, I'm pretty sure if I lived over there, I would have been killed years ago, only because I dare to think for myself and not to believe the same stupid stuff that everybody else believes in there. So yeah, I'm extremely upset as well. I know I don't show it, but this makes me extremely angry because I think this is the reason why we do what we do, because we don't want our countries to become the Christian version of those places. Because guys, if you read your Bible, I should be stoned because I always talk against your God, against certain God from the Bible. So there are people who want that for the country where I live. And I don't want me to be murdered, but I don't want anyone to be murdered only due to those awful, awful beliefs. Sorry, Josh.
No, go. That was perfectly fine. I need to be interrupted every once in a while. I do it to everybody else.
I wouldn't call it fun, but anyways.
Yeah, one interrupt at a time. I get really frustrated with this kind of shit because the government did say that this was a bad thing, but the problem wasn't so much that the guy was killed. It was that it was vigilante justice is what they're emphasizing on.
Right.
they're okay with killing people for blasphemy.
Right.
That'd be perfectly fine. If they did whatever their fucking stupid justice system was, they'd be okay if he got put to death after that. So it's not so much that like they killed a guy for peeling stickers, which they're even saying that was proper procedure for cleaning up the machines in the factory that he worked at. And his wife was saying he would never be blasphemous. So it's like a lot of just people in religious fervors can get worked up over absolutely nothing and decide when somebody's being blasphemous. And there in the article it talked about there have been 77 vigilante style murders done in the name of against blasphemy, and all that is just speculation, which it doesn't even fucking matter whether it's speculation or not. I'm a metalhead that listens to a band. It's called Rotting Christ. I want to be able to say fuck you God and whatever music I listen to, and I don't think anybody anywhere in the world should be stopped from doing that. It's a fucking idea. When they can prove that this God exists, maybe when he comes down and says something to us, maybe then we'll stop doing blasphemy. I probably still will, but I'll be struck by lightning or something. But fuck this shit.
Blasphemy is not a crime.
Well, crimes are where they make them. So it is a crime there, but blasphemy shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, right. It's not a crime in the sense of like murder, right?
Yeah,
like
it's not.
What was
immoral.
the crime? Was the murder of this man?
Right. Exactly.
And it's so weird because just in the article, and I try to look at supplemental ones too, just to get an idea of what the investigators were saying. I felt really like, and with the shit that goes on in America, it's already disheartening, but, and, with the investigations of lack thereof that they do and certain, murders of certain people, I already feel disheartened. But this one was really telling to me because I just felt as if what the investigators were saying didn't really feel like they were trying, to put it simply. They didn't feel like they were trying to, I mean, yeah, they arrested folks, sure, but it almost felt like the vigilantism of killing this man was an easy, brush off the shoulder. Like, oh, we don't have to waste our time trying to take this person to trial for blasphemy. We just let the folks, take care of it on their own. I'm like, okay, well, we'll arrest them for a while. We'll keep them in jail for a time or two just to show that, we're doing something. That's what it read to me. That's how it read to me.
It almost feels like low-key how we treat sex workers when there's a crime done against them. Like we treat them like they're expendable. It doesn't matter. They kind of broke the law. They were doing something dangerous. They kind of had it coming. So we'll do a perfunctory look at this and make it seem like there's some sort of law going, but they're not. They're barely viewed as people by some people in law. I'm not going to say all people in law enforcement, by some people in law enforcement. And this is the same kind of thing. The law doesn't care about these people because they supposedly blaspheme. And these people know to enforce the laws. You got to kill the blasphemers.
And the fake surprise that you're seeing from so many figures that were blatantly fanning these flames. That may be one of the parts that just makes me so mad. You stood there and you told people. You told them exactly what to do if something like this happens. You said, this is righteous. You said, this is what our scripture demands. And then when they do it, you pretend not to know why. You pretend not to know where it came from.
But
I will take it from here. It's like the whole society is just being poisoned somehow, because when I read the defense of the wife of this guy, she said, I'm going to quote her. He was very much aware of the living conditions in Pakistan. It is a Muslim country. He knew what he should not do there, and that's how he managed to work there for 11 years. What she's trying to say is he would never do that because he knew how dangerous it is. But guys, I can imagine people. I can see people saying, yeah, he knew that he was not supposed to go against the prophet. He was not supposed to do anything against Islam. So he was looking for this when he dared to do that. When this phrase that is a defense can be used to justify what happened to this guy is when you have a whole society that is being poisoned to the core. And as Secular said, they are constantly being fed this hatred and these awful ideas that if somebody dares to do something against their religion, they practically deserve death. And that's sickening. That's awful.
Yes, and I agree with you. Oh, I'm sure we all do. But I want to pull a little bit from just bouncing off what Secular Rayleigh said about this being a part of their scripture. I did a little digging because I don't know enough about the Islamic faith. So I wanted to find out truly is this is a part of the Quran. If it's truly a part of Scripture that blasphemy is the ultimate sin and this is punishable by the death of those around you. And so there was an interesting information that I pulled. This is from a associate professor from the State University of New York. Her name is Shameen Bernie Abbas, and she is a profound pioneer of the study of the evolution of blasphemy and the laws of early Islamic empires up until today's present day Taliban. So there was a bit of a quote here from this, I guess you could say, study that she did, in which it states the Quran mentions many examples of disbelievers ridiculing and mocking Muhammad, but never commands him to punish those who mocked him. Instead, the Quran asks Muhammad to leave the punishment of blasphemy to God or Allah, and that there would be justice in the afterlife. So clearly, I don't think, and I haven't read the Quran. I'm basing it off of another professional's investigation of said book. Okay. So taking her word, as far as the extensive study that she has done, as far as the Quran scripture, blasphemy by punishment of your fellow followers on earth should not be punishable by sin. According to this is the justice in the afterlife for Allah to do. I mean, obviously, I don't trust all that BS anyway, but it's even more damning how much of these laws that are written in these countries that are of Islamic faith bolster and keep with this, ultimate death penalty bullshit when it comes to someone allegedly, mind you, blaspheming against Muhammad.
Well, that's all
It's
really
not even in
surprising to
scripture.
me. That's all really surprising to me because I know about like the Muhammad cartoons getting people killed and blown up, and I never investigated it further. Islam is not really the religion. I mean, I'm also in California. It's not really the religion that's going on around here. I know a bunch of Christians. I don't think I've ever met anybody that's at least openly Islamic. So like, I've been kind of taking the media's word for it, and I guess that's something I should investigate a little bit.
And it is
I
worth
think
looking at a couple of different places and understanding. For instance, there is a hadith that is considered sahih, which is considered strong in Arabic, which means that it has good narration and translation and history, and they consider it to be pretty true, where it does seem to make it out that if you kill somebody for insulting Muhammad, that's okay. And there is a surah 9:5, a surah and an ayah that specifically states to go out and kill the non-believers any of the days as long as it is not the holy months of Ramadan. And while we could talk about the theology of it forever, I think the real problem is that there is a book that is supposed to be the true words of some all-powerful, all-capable thing. And when that's what you base your system on, there is always room for massive problems like this. Because I can stand up and read the book and say, well, this is what I think it says. And you can stand up and say, well, this is what I think it says. And we don't have a good way to determine who's right. Whereas we do know when you kill somebody, that's it. Like, we know that from science, that they tell us that. I'm not medically trained, but I do believe Jena can help us out here. I mean, do people come back from the dead? Do we have that?
No, we don't have that.
But if my book says it does, I'll live my life like that, and bad consequences can come from that.
Yeah, I'll let you
Yeah,
know when they update the medical journal.
Thank you. I'm looking forward.
Have
I've
some
seen a few
cohesion with biblical scripture. I'll let you know.
I've seen a few movies on my podcast that kind of say the otherwise that people can come back, but I don't know if Return of the Living Dead is a real documentary. But
It's a good movie though.
Great movie. My absolute problem with this is I had an idea and then I completely lost it because secular rarity was like killing it there.
Sorry.
But yeah, somebody else take it from me. I lost my point.
While you
It's
think about
okay.
that, I'm just going to add that secular was referring to the Quran, Surah 9:5. That is the one that says after the forbidden months, go fight, kill, ambush, torture, and lie in order to kill the unbelievers. So
Yeah.
there's a whole book talking against us.
I remember my point
non-believers.
now.
Go
We
for it.
were supposed I tried to relate this article to me because I get frustrated with this kind of thing because the Pakistan, we can't really do fucking shit for what's going on over there. So I'm like, we got to relate this to how America is going, and we can see the religious fervor rising in here. So we got to like use this as not like a warning of what absolutely is going to happen, but we got to be watching these religious groups and seeing where they're trying to manipulate power and where they're trying to place religion into government and institutions. And like, I see them trying to get creationism in schools. And like, that's a part of religion getting snuck in there. It's like I think I can't remember what it's called, but there's like a religious force where they're trying to sneak as many tiny things of religion into the government as possible. And it seems like a little tiny thing until it adds up to where they get control, and they're doing it with Roe versus Wade. They're taking away that right now. This is like all heading not necessarily exactly in that direction, but we're starting to turn at least towards that a little bit. And we got to be watching, like, use this as like a warning sign of what happens when religious fervor and people aren't questioning it enough happens.
Yeah. And I'm gonna give
Definitely.
you that final word, Josh, on that. It definitely speaks volumes to what we see now in our country versus, everywhere else. Just bleeding into that whatever type of faith wants to implement on our laws. So I'll give you that last word. And actually, Josh, you are heading off our final segment for this episode. Please, by all means, take over.
I kind of wanted to do this one because I'm usually the pessimist in all the groups that I'm in. So it's nice to give something that's at least a little bit on the upside for a change. And this is an article about why pastors are joining the Great Resignation from Sojourners. The article talks about how, according to a recent poll data by Barna Group, a California-based research group that studies faith and culture, that many pastors are considering. I noticed there was an effort on considering instead of leaving necessarily in the demographics that they were given, but are considering leaving the church. Of those polled, 38% of the senior members consider leaving the church, and pastors under 45 had a rising number of 46% that have considered leaving the church since the pandemic started. The article didn't give numbers on those who actually resonated. I would love to see like firm numbers on this, but I looked at it, and the article was written. I forgot to write down her name, but it was a religious person, so maybe they don't want those numbers completely out there for everybody to take a look at. But the problem is they're not leaving for the right reasons. They're leaving because they're frustrated with not having enough money because of the pandemic, or they're seeing some frustrations with how people have been dealing with the pandemic and how politicians are being kind of hypocritical for some of them. But they're not leaving because they've lost faith in God. They've lost faith in they're almost doing like the I'm not religious, but I have a relationship with God kind of thing, because they're not leaving God. They're just leaving the buildings, institutions.
Right. And I did pull out the pastor's name. Her name is Melissa Flora Bixler. She's a pastor of her own church, location pending, but that's what the breadth of that whole Great Resignation read to me. It's no real movement from pastors or people that work a senior pastor or what have you moving away from religion, as you stated. It's just more of, well, this pandemic fucks shit up and I'm not making enough money, so I got to go do something else.
It still is a step in the right direction. Like getting disillusioned with it is like the first. Oh, I've never been religious, but I've heard it's the first step of getting out of religion, is like finding little cracks in the walls on it. So this could be. I'm not going to say all of them are suddenly going to go atheist, and we'll see them hosting this show. But I would say that there's probably going to be a drop off of at least some of them. But I don't know how significant that number would be.
Yeah, I think Josh made a good point where, while I would want them to be resigning, because what they're saying is, look, I I investigated this and I really tried and it just doesn't hold up. they are saying something about this organization. It's not working the way it should, right? I'm called from God himself. God put me here. God put this family here, this building, and yet they're not able to run. And not only that, but there's infighting and people doing just shady stuff to each other and all of this and hey, if the reason that you step away from your church and from continuing to give people bad conclusions and bad evidence and just poor epistemology in general, if the reason you do that is because you just didn't have enough snacks at the Sunday meeting, I gotta be honest, I'm okay with that. I'm
You gotta
fine
have
with that.
snacks.
You gotta have those snacks.
If I'm gonna
I
sit there
almost
for
left
2
the
hours, you gotta feed me.
I've almost left the stream because you guys didn't provide me any snacks.
Josh, Secular, you two are too optimistic, I have to say. Sorry, didn't get your joke. What is stopping those guys from just leaving this one organization and creating their own church and try to become a televangelist on their own? There is nothing stopping them from doing that.
True. I see your point, Mateo. I do. I think overall it's because, with everything that has caused such restraint during the pandemic, hell, even my family's church is still not in person. And I haven't heard word of them going back in person for the foreseeable future. They've been virtual ever since the height of this. And this has been like over a year running, 2 years. So, or however long, the years are bleeding together. Hi, 2020, 2022, y'all. But it's, it's powerful in a sense that now we're seeing less senior pastors moving away from having this being their full-time duty because there's lack of participation. There's older generations that want to be in person. Virtual is not on the hippity hop side of things. It's tough.
To say it.
It's hip and top. They're trying to find new ways of having money being funded to them. Text us, here's my Venmo, here's my Cash App, send me some money. It's like you can't. It's hard, it's difficult. People don't like that. And the support and familiarity of being in service is what bolsters and benefits churches in the first place, because you have that surrounding emotion, you have your fellowship, hey neighbor, yeah, you have that. And now that you're lacking that, that's why they're moving away, because they can't even support themselves. I mean, there ain't no Joel Osteen, but hey, there's something in that game apparently. But interestingly enough, there was some news according to a survey released Tuesday of the past day of whenever this will be released per recording, by the Pew Research Center. This group, commonly known as the nuns, which is basically shortening for non-believers, now constitutes 29% of American adults. That's up since 2016, which was at 23%, and even more so since 2011, which was at 19%. So we are seeing great increases for us seculars. Hello. Because of this, great resignation of pastors moving away from, full duty preaching jobs and into something else.
I have a hard time getting excited about the nuns just because I know a lot of people that fit the nuns and they still love tarot cards, and not in the way that they know it's an exercise or whatever. I still know people that like homeopathy. They just don't believe in God. I wish we could get a number of how many people are skeptical in that group, and then I'd get a little bit more excited about it.
That's why the segment's called A Step in the Right Direction and not a leap forward in the right direction, right?
You are so good.
We got the first step. We got they're finally starting to question, but we do need better snacks. If we're going to invite more people, y'all, we need better snacks.
Well, I did start the segment saying that I'm a pessimist and I couldn't keep the optimism going for a whole segment.
Had to come down at some point.
That's fair.
Everybody's got to end this stream with this frown.
I will try to get the optimistic thing in here, and let me quote some part of the article here. Somebody said, my colleagues have shared about how difficult it has been to convince white liberal churches to stand against racism and reimagine economic practices that emphasize redistribution. So it's not only about a lack of money, but also apparently they want to follow the word of God. Apparently, I don't know, but the leaders are kind of against them. What do you think about these guys? What do you believe them? Do you believe that this is just an excuse? Do you think that they were actually trying to do something right? Do you have any opinion about this?
The thing is, I don't think like necessarily the small churches are the Joel Osteen types. I do think some of them like believe what they're saying and like they're actually trying to practice what they preach. Especially these ones that are talking about how they did the Great Resignation under reasons for vaccine mandates and masks, and how the church was sending out bad signals about that. Some of them are on the up and up. So I do believe that some of them have great ideas for humanity. Is just I want to take the religion away from it.
Yeah. And I think what we're seeing is just a continuation and an increase of the wave that we have continued to see for the last 20 to 30 some odd years. I mean, as this wonderful, wonderfully interesting world that we have has gotten more connected, and we have been able to actually find information. Look, you're not a damn physicist because you watched a video on YouTube, people, but you can learn some damn basics. And that's good, because for a long time, there were a lot of us that just didn't know anything. And there's so many stories out there where somebody says, gosh, I learned this one fact, and all of a sudden now I'm skeptical about everything, and I always seek the best evidence. And this is that first little bullet point. This is that first little box that has to be checked off, And hopefully what this will lead to is exactly where Josh was saying, hopefully what we'll see is more people stepping away further, and they'll stop being nuns and they'll start being, humanists and skeptics and atheists, and they'll just be out there advocating for stuff, and we won't even have to do it anymore. We'll all be out of jobs. I mean,
fingers crossed.
Yeah,
it's a little bit more optimistic than I'm willing to go for it, but like I do see like the older generation dropping off, maybe because they're not used to the technology. Like Jena made that point. Like I go to the movies all the time with a mask, and I'll see the older generation struggle with assigned seating. So like the fact that they can't figure that out means that they're not gonna have the technology to support these churches. And like this whole technological streaming age isn't for a lot of, I know some tech savvy older people. I'm not trying to say all older people don't know it, but they're going to lose a lot of people through this. And I can see churches falling by the wayside, and without the institution being there, it could be hard for people. I'm not saying completely by the wayside, but it might be like with polling situations where you might have to drive a little bit further to get to the church that's closest to you. And that's going to hurt some people doing attendance. And you need the constant reinforcement of the word of God in order to get people to continue to believe this thing.
To bring it back to a bit more optimism, for me, I recognize that as a Black atheist, there are a lot of silent voices within the attachment of Black people and Christianity or religion in general. And I know there's like a recent article that referenced how minuscule, how minimum of us are, and not only just stating that you have a non-belief, but actually outwardly stating that you have a non-belief. A lot of us still remain closeted. I am also an exception of that, because I am outside of this internet sphere and closeted. So I think this provides some encouragement as far as, this withdrawal of, building more churches and having more of the, ministries going on, to where it would allow the open-mindedness of looking at other things more critically and discerning for oneself, not just as a Black and atheist, but all people, that now we don't have this hindrance of churches trying to open their doors and welcome you as you are type bullshit. You can finally do your own due diligence for yourself, for your own life, and apply a bit more skepticism. But I know this was a good piece to end on. I appreciate you, Josh, for opening our closing us with this segment, and appreciate you being here as a guest host on the Nonprofits. We obviously welcome you back, as pessimistic as you tend to be, but we are optimistic of your return.
I
Here,
had a
here.
lot of fun. Thanks for having me on here.
Good. And of course, Mateo, Secular Rarity, thank you for joining us. Viewers, thank you for being
Thank you
here
for
on
having
this
us
New
here.
Year episode. Yes, of course. And I enjoyed being here. I appreciate all of you. By all means, continue to support the show. And you can do so by becoming a patron. You can fundraise. Obviously, you have that green light up there. Give us your money. I'm not a good evangelist. I'm sorry. But
I took my money out.
very good. But you can become a patron at tiny.cc/Patreon And if you find yourself already shopping at Amazon, support the atheist community of Austin by shopping at smile.amazon.com and selecting the atheist community of Austin as your beneficiary. Be sure to use that link to help the ACA out, and we freaking appreciate it. We want to continue the mission of the ACA. We want to promote that positive atheism and apply more skeptical, secular minds to advocate for what we do. We value your feedback. By all means, send us an email or just comment to us. Join our fan based server, the Atheist Community of Discord at tiny.cc/ACD server. You can comment there. A lot of people I found have linked us to articles, and we've displayed them here in previous shows. So please, I actively suggest you continue to do that. Or comment in the comment to the show down at the bottom, or send us an email. We need emails. Send an email. Nonprofits at atheist-community.org. Send us emails. Write to us. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Yell at us. Whatever. Just communicate with us. Let's continue this fight. Let's continue to support each other. Let's do what we always say we do and promote our community. Thank you all for joining us, and Happy New Year. We'll see you next week.
Watch The Atheist Experience live Sundays at 4:30 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTAXP and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callaxp.